Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So hopefully this works better. All right. People seem to at least be starting to come in, so we're gonna switch in. So as you're able to tell, I'm on basically the new PC. In fact, so let me just pull this onto the side, and I'll get the screen up here. So yeah. Anyways, folks, whoever is actually in here right now, thank you for coming in. Yeah. So we're gonna quickly look for some non-copyright music to get the setup. So I actually finally have the PC working, but it's yeah, it's okay. Alrighty, and I can't hear anything. Terrific. All right, folks. Let me know if this works. Yeah, people just let me know how this sounds. This is definitely like a very much a first time thing. Yep. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay, and just to confirm, obviously this is non-copyrighted music. I'm not an idiot, so I'm not gonna take that kind of chance on a low-key stream. Hello to the second person, so I know for sure that isn't just basically my own account. Yeah. Welcome into the stream. This is actually me on the new streaming PC I've been talking about for so long. It's finally here. Finally got it set up. It's all in the deal. It's all in the stream. Yeah, I'm hoping it looks good for people. It's taken some work to get the setup going and all that, but you know what? It's here, and it seems like to a certain degree, at least, we've almost made it. Yeah. Anyways, like I said before, thanks to the first person that came in, and so we'll just get started in the stream, and we'll wait for other people to pop in. So I'll tell some people in this a little bit of a fun thing while we wait for more people to come. Is there's a little Twitter drama that you might not have seen actually if you weren't paying attention today. but basically had a whole Twitter fight with one of the editors of Blacklocks magazine, in fact, because oh boy, they had what I would refer to as a absolutely atrocious tweet. And now where did I put it? Because I had a whole thing. Ah, here it is. Here it is. Okay. Blacklocks reporters. Feds part Canada to expand hashtag Mandarin program. So they're already saying hashtag Mandarin. Why are you hashtagging it in the first place? To make praised red folk hero. You mean communist? Like seriously, Cold War propaganda? Red? Who praised Mao? This man is a giant. And then they use genocide, of course. Actually, that reminds me. First of all, let's look through some of the comments just to get people's general thoughts on this. But I'm curious to see what the thoughts of the audience are here. Please do let me know what your thoughts on this were, and especially like, did any of y'all actually like see this, or basically is this something that you're just catching now? Yeah, it's a whole it's a whole ass mess, to be quite honest. So yeah, it was just like a really like a big example of like, you know, anti-communist kind of propaganda, and just really dangerous stuff. Everyone basically who supported Blackbox just calling everyone China bots and the usual xenophobic nonsense. But things started to go off because I'm having a hard time seeing any of the comments and such. So basically, I'm gonna have to put up the Twitch on my phone to see if I can catch it in here. But yeah, so for context, before I go any further, right, the person they're talking about in this kind of like hit job article really is Norman Bethune, and Norman Bethune is an absolute hero. This guy basically was one of the real like early medical innovators, basically really like a strong humanitarian, someone who's trying to push for socialized medicine and trying to do these like really brave things decades before that push became popular. Okay, I can't charge my phone. Okay, perfect. All right, well, let's get to my actual response. Let's just do myself a favor and we'll go back here. Here it is. Okay, I called them out. That shrine is to Norm Bethune, a Canadian medical hero and anti-imperialist. And you know what? I called those fools some fools because, quite frankly, they have quite the record. And so I got a response. They just said hashtag genocide, which is of course they did. Really, it's just a classic case of course they did. And yeah, basically they said, oh, 2 of our staff worked in China 3 years as a journalist, visited Bethune shrines, asking me if I'd read it right. And there's a whole bunch of good points I'm not going to go fully through, right? But I just want people to see this aspect, right, of the article. I took a phone screenshot of this just so people would have a better chance to like see it. And so yeah, basically they have a bad record actually. Like Doan apparently in a later tweet said that she had apologized for coming on those things, but I gotta be quite frank, that speaks very poorly to her judgment. If she has fully apologized, and apparently there's some sort of struggle sessions, he said, but I don't know if there's a link to that, if that's just a private thing. Private is not as like commendable, to be honest, if you're apologizing at that point. Tom Korski, who's one of the other major contributors, right? Basically he pushed for Xinhua News to be removed from the Canadian Press Gallery. And he called basically anyone who worked for Xinhua, reporters who freelance as intelligence agents. So it's just open xenophobia, right? It's just open xenophobia of the highest order, and it's quite disgraceful, to be frank. Yeah, it's quite unbelievable, to be honest, that basically they've kind of managed to launder this reputation as being quote unquote nonpartisan. Yeah, so I think this is probably a good time to pull us over to the actual article itself. I just wanted people to like get a read of this, get to see what's happening, because basically I had covered basically this outlet. To be honest, I had kind of caught an eye on some of the stuff they were up to, and I didn't think it was good even at the time. So this was like probably late November. And yeah, I'm gonna take a quick like 10-second pause. Something came up for me quickly, but be back in like 10-15 seconds. Alright, okay, we're back. Sorry for the quick delay. Just need to do something for a quick little second. Yep. Point being, this is the outlet, basically, which months earlier had pushed this really xenophobic story called "Never Attract China Agents," and so this article like got kind of slammed publicly on Twitter and all that, but didn't really get much attention, quite honestly, other than that. And so I actually decided to just dig into this organization, right? And so the first thing you're going to notice is basically that they claim that it is non-partisan, which is kind of hilarious. Basically, if you see their tweet, if you see their reports, if you see anything really. But you know what? They try to push it. They try to push it, but yeah. Basically. Anyways, let's talk about Blacklock's background, because I've laughed and jibed for long enough. Anyways. Basically, the whole deal and really the major problem, right, with this in the first place is basically that it was actually inspired by a World War I correspondent that was a confidant of Robert Borden, who implemented conscription. Like as Tyler Shipley wrote, this was really a pointless imperialist war, but it happened. It got forced through. That war happened, and they decided to cheer him on, and I'll highlight this part as like an important section for people to think about, because quite frankly this is just absolutely disgraceful. Like there's basically, it was pretty much slave labor. Well, no, I don't know if that's right, but yeah, it almost was. It basically was slave labor, really, because they were basically kept interned in camps. They were basically forced to work for these companies, or basically they'd be stuck in these camps. So, and they didn't get paid. So yeah, no, okay, that's fair enough. Actually, I think I'm running the money there. Point being, right, that not only is their history bad, right? If you take a look at it, their present is really terrible. So basically, they are some of the people that have been pushing extremely hard in terms of the Serb fraud narrative. Basically, they sue a whole bunch of they're really lawsuit happy. They've had a habit of unnecessary suits. They've actually partnered up with Post Media, which I know is obviously quite a favorite of the left, really. I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, because it's quite a bad organization. But they partnered up with them, basically, like I said before, mentioning the Wuhan coronavirus narrative that was pushed by Trump and their ilk. Korsky calling for Xinhua News to be forced out, trying to use them to actually do the American Foreign Agents Act registration. And it gets worse. It gets worse, folks. I'm gonna give you all a quick second to read through basically. But yeah, no, it's just really bad. This outlet in general, it's just not really conducive to any good discussion. It's really it's smearing China. It really is. It's the definition of my personal opinion of like toxic nonpartisanness. Quite frankly, because you have a case where an organization that pretends to be nonpartisan is actually quite dangerous because, well, when you go about and actually try to push these kind of narratives, it has real world consequences. And well, I think I'm glad to say that I'd say the left as a whole generally understands the importance and like understands the danger of stuff like this, basically. But I think a lot of basically people don't, and I mean like you're kind of seeing this rising anti-China sentiment quite generally. You think of it whether it's basically Matthew Green going off on a whole rants about basically when he's challenged, calling anyone who basically doesn't want to believe the narrative around Xinjiang basically a total like just calling them tankies and really refusing to engage right in any sort of good faith. So it's remarkably problematic, really. And I think it's just very important that basically stuff like this gets opposed, and quite frankly, really before I think it was really the only left media to actually touch on this very important issue at all. Basically, everyone just kind of on the left media almost pretended this didn't exist, and to me that's incredibly problematic because, well, this organization is really going about and pushing dangerous narratives. It's spreading smears and lies, basically, and it's kind of just been ignored for a while. And well, I think it should be getting some attention because. Quite frankly, when you go about and push these kind of narratives that, like, I mean, and there's a tweet from Arlen Thompson. I wanna pull it up and go back to this because Arlen basically had a good tweet in response to this. We'll have to find it quickly. Give me a quick second here. I honestly was kind of surprised I got the response it did, but it was not xenophobia, and then it was a quote tweet right here, I think. You know what, never mind. It was basically just Arlen Thompson mentioning that there was really a massive spike in hate crimes, in anti-Asian hate crimes. And Arlen's obviously a great, really chill dude, basically musician himself, and him, Dan, myself, and some other people are kind of working together on general projects and some stuff. So I've been fortunate to work alongside them a fair bit, and they're very, very, very cool people, is the way I'd put it. They definitely have a clue about what they're talking about, and well, it's nice to be around people like that, to be quite frank. Yeah, only problem here is I'm kind of struggling to I can't really, because of my setup, it seems like I can't actually see the Twitch comments, which isn't great. so I'm not sure how I'm going to fix that, because I have a new setup where the monitor to the side of it basically is in essence it's basically vertical, right? It's vertical, so it's harder to see. So as a result, basically, it's not as not as great, really. Yeah, this just isn't. This is a very much work in progress. So the comments engagement is it's going to be a work in progress. But anyways, as I was really mentioning before, just this general theme has been quite problematic. And I mean, I want to like bring people back to a rather kind of infamous engagement, which was the really the anti kind of tanky rant that Matthew Green really went on. And I just want to mention this as like a prime example, right, of where the danger of this basically kind of narrative pushing actually comes. Basically, if you don't basically actively push against these kind of things, then quite frankly, you're going to have a case where these kind of things people get away with them, and that's not cool, quite frankly. You know what? Actually, change of plans. We're going to do something more useful, because I'm not going to be able to find that for a little while. We're going to watch a little mini documentary on Norm Bethune. Which is honestly nice, because now that I actually have some power. Let's see here. Let's watch a video from. We can't watch. I honestly don't have time to watch the full thing, but let's watch a few videos on him. CGTN is probably a very good source for this, so let's go from there. All right, so let's watch another one. Basically on that's the same one.
The exhibition highlighted two crucial stages of Dr. Norman Bethune's life. Bethune first came to international prominence in her service as a frontline surgeon during the Spanish Civil War. But it was his service with the 8th Blue Army in the war against Japanese aggression that won him enduring acclaim. While Norman Bethune may not be a household name in his home country, here in China he is known for his love for the Chinese people and sublime medical skills. Perhaps as his compassion
Alrighty, so we'll switch it up. There's one more video I want y'all to watch actually. And it is, let me see which one it was. It was here. It was the introduction to the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame.
Born in Gravenhurst, Ontario in 1890, Norman Bethune became a doctor in 1916. Early in his professional career, he developed tuberculosis. This experience influenced his subsequent career in thoracic surgery and his design of thoracic surgical instruments.
He was an idealist. He was a dreamer, but he was a perfectionist. Like in Montreal, when he specialized in diseases of the lung, he was incensed. He was enraged at the inequality of the medical care for the rich and for the poor. He said there were two kinds of tuberculosis. The rich man got better and the poor man died.
He was a visionary with a world view, espousing the cause of the Republican side in the Spanish Civil War and the revolutionary side in the Chinese Civil War. In Canada, he was an early advocate for a universal health care system.
And that's why he was some people call him a crackpot. Maybe he was, but he was 40 years ahead of his time. All he wanted was socialist medicine. He wanted prepaid medical care for every Canadian citizen.
In the Spanish Civil War, Dr. Bethune was the first to introduce the mobile blood bank to the battlefield. Using blood and plasma in refrigerated containers, his mobile units reduced death by shock and made operations possible in the midst of fighting.
I mean, the bombs that were falling on Spain, Bethune said, Spain is a scar on my heart. And Albert Camus said the same thing. And anyone who followed the Spanish Civil War, you guys are too young, it was horrendous. I mean, the Germans and the Italians were practicing their bombing and their war machine on the Spanish people, and the West just turned its eyes away.
This is what led him to other corners of the world, I think, because he wanted to take that care and attention and knowledge to Spain and to China. I do remember when he came back from Spain, I remember him saying to my father, China is where I have to go. And I remember that as though it was almost a statement of fact.
Quick thanks to the people popping in. Like I said before, basically, chat engagement is going to be a little limited until I can figure out how to get the chat to show up on Twitch. Once I can do that, hopefully it'll get better there. But yeah, we'll have to see. It just does not seem to want to show up, unfortunately, which makes just doing this chat a little bit more interesting.
Somebody just a few weeks ago who works in China, has a business in China. And I said, what does the name Dr. Norman Bethune mean now in China? The same as it did when we were over there, he said. It is a magic name.
All right, folks. Oh my god, I think we ran to Watch Mojo by accident. What the hell? Oh my god. Okay. As much as I would appreciate the lulls of watching Watch Mojo, I think I'm gonna pass there. Let's put on a little music again. We are gonna go back to the good old Twitter. I'm going to prepare the link, to be quite honest, on the side. So I'm going to drop this on here. And so there is something remarkably interesting that was dropped in, and I have to give credit to Prairie Socialist for this. Essentially, it was a little document called Assets, Incomes, and Sponsored Travel of NDP MPs and Spouses, which was honestly quite a very good link. So let's take a quick look at this to basically give you guys an idea. So in terms of the assets, immediately let's just focus on assets as the immediate thing. So we have a Brian Massey holding a rental property. So we have Brian Massey as a landlord. I think Alistair McGregor seems like a landlord. Seems like shares. He seems to have some shares, but I mean, I don't know. That doesn't seem like the biggest. That doesn't seem great. I don't really want MPs invested in the stock market, but that doesn't seem the worst. Like Jack Harris, who is a renter. He's a renter. I mean, not a renter. What I'm talking about. He's a landlord. So landlords, that's not. Fuck that, is the way I put it. Yeah. So, Digby's saying that's normal. It's just copyrights of a book. Let's go down here a little bit more. I want to see if I can, like, try to get this, let's just create like a copy. Let's just make a copy of this so we can edit it a little bit. I want to just get you guys a chance to actually see this more in depth now. So we're gonna have to scroll down a little bit to find Matthew Green, and then if you look down here, it should be, yeah, sole ownership of 2311887 Ontario Inc., a real estate company. Now, it's not clear, to be honest. I'm not going to say he's a landlord. It's not clear there. It may just be that's his gym anyways, but he does at least own a gym, which is, yet again, not a crime, but it's certainly worth noticing. Yeah, other than that, you don't have too many NDP MPs who are directly landlords themselves, basically. But the other thing I want to note is, surprise, surprise, basically Randall Garrison is up to it again, really, because, and I say this sarcastically, good old Randall, basically, if you take a look at what he's been up to, Leah Gazan Consulting. So she was consulting before this? Interesting. Okay, that's interesting to know. Yeah, so where is it again? It was, here we go. We have a parliamentary delegation trip with, CIJA, which is, I believe, yet again, another one of the, basically anti-Palestine solidarity organizations. So that's not exactly tip-top, in my opinion. And then you also have a trip to Taiwan. Now, I'm not sure how terrible that doesn't seem as terrible, quite frankly. Yeah, you know what? I really need to turn this down. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully that works better. Yes, I'm not so sure about Taiwan, but yet again, it's Garrison up to his usual shenanigans, to be quite honest. Peter Julian's trips are decent, just going to Palestine, sponsored by some decent organizations and institutions there. There we go. Okay, I needed to log in. I'm so sorry, folks, but I finally got the chat to work. All right. No worries for the confusion. Thank you, everyone, for waiting. There we go. Hopefully this is better. Hopefully this is better now. Let's just say that we basically let's put this to 125. There we go. People should be able to fully see that now. Okay, so there we go. Tech issues should be better. So we're looking at a copy of NDP-MP assets and incomes. So it doesn't look like there's a ton. Like I said before, there seems to be a few NDP-MP landlords, which is something like kind of eye-catching to me. I mean, after what we saw before, the day before, I mean, it's not as shocking as I thought it would be, but it's certainly something worth catching an eye on, anyways. Yeah. So Dan Box is asking, how is that new PC? I would say that new PC is it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good so far, actually. And so, yeah, I've been pleased with it so far. I've been pleased with it so far for sure. Anyways, I wanted to show you guys the next thing I want to show you guys, because we're gonna have a guest on at 8:30, and we'll chat about this a little bit more. Brian Massey. Yep, he has a rental property held with his spouse. So if I'm getting the legalese or wording correctly, I think he is a landlord. So take that as you will. Take that as you will. I don't know what the state of Bosnia is. I'll be entirely honest, so I'm not gonna really judge on the trip per se. But yeah, I gotta be honest here. I think I share the feeling with many that not exactly wild about MPs really being not really wild with MPs being actually landlords. It's just, to me, it's not really chill at all. Yeah, anyways, so people, as you might be able to tell, I'll say that I've actually invested in a new streaming PC. This costs a decent bit, but I think it's worth it. But I want to mention this, if you guys enjoy if you guys are financially okay enough where you could support some of the journalism I'm doing, that support would be really appreciated, because you've probably seen some of the stuff I've written and stuff I've covered in the past while. 3 pretty big investigations in a few weeks. Trying to get back into streaming every little bit where possible. And so if you guys, easiest way here is just a Twitch sub to directly financially support it, or basically there's the option of actually just giving it a follow. Just giving it a follow if you're able to. Okay, so the little chat function works. MPs shouldn't be landlords or allowed to have money in the stock market IMO. There is too much room for insider trading. That is Mouseland. Oh, David Cassels. Hey, David, how you doing, man? Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree for sure. And it gets worse. Take a look at this here, folks. Davide Mastracci did some great digging. And here is a look at the Ontario MPP landlords. So let me zoom in a little bit so people can hopefully see this better. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So the first one you're going to notice is Andrea Horvath. That is right. The Ontario NDP leader is a landlord. Butila Carpoche is a landlord as well, who, funny enough, I honestly didn't know about this because I've had a decent amount of interactions with her while I was kind of more of a student activist. But apparently she lives in the same apartment as John Tory, or even rents out the same apartment as John Tory. You have Chris Glover, and I'll be quite honest, from personal experience, that doesn't surprise me, because Chris is actually, I remember being in the Spadina Fort York NDP Writing Association, basically, and I remember him actively basically pushing against any discussions in terms of social media strategy, which was kind of one of the main things I was focused on when I was as part of the writing association on the executive. Basically, him and one or two other people pretty strongly pushed against any kind of movement for a rent ban, or basically these kind of measures that would protect basically just working people at any cost. And so I had a feeling at the time. I was pretty pissed off, but now the connections are, I mean, pretty damn clear to me at this point, anyways. Yeah, no, there's a reason why I left the party. That was one of the major things that pissed me off. Is just like, you really gotta like take basically the safety of the people to be your utmost priority, quite frankly. And sure, should the government like try to make sure that people on the properties maybe don't go totally like tits up per se? Sure, I mean, it's not a terrible idea at all. But basically, if you're gonna say that basically you should be protecting like landlords over regular working people, that to me that's a hard no. Because quite frankly, it's the workers, it's the working people that matter. It's the landlords. It's an investment, right? It's an investment. You're taking a chance. And so if there's a crazy scenario like this, then I mean, it shouldn't be the rentier that basically pays the price. It quite frankly should be the landlord that pays said price. Because at the end of the day, the renter doesn't choose to be in a position where housing is absolutely unaffordable, where most of the properties are bought up, where rent is going up every single year, and it's like a hellscape for like a young person who wants to like try to pick up a house or pick up any sort of property to just have a damn roof over their head. So at the end of the day, I don't have like pity for those kind of people, even though I'd rather them not totally collapse. I mean, because at the end of the day, they'll then just be bought up by even bigger capitalists, and so that's kind of one of the problems. But to me, it's pretty clear, right, that you should be prioritizing the renters. You should be prioritizing the working class, and if you can help out those landlords, can help out those people in like very targeted ways that essentially just make sure they don't lose track of the property, then I could be amenable to that. But I mean, they are quite frankly not my priority, or I hope of priority of a lot of the left, anyways. Yes, this triggers some interesting reactions. But let's get to the rest of the MPs before we do this. So there is John Van Thoth of Timiskaming Cochrane, and you have Percy Hatfield of Windsor Tecumseh. You have Sandy Shaw, which is interesting. She seemed to have like a somewhat decent presence out there. Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas is a landlord, in case any of you are somehow from that riding. There's Teresa Armstrong of London Fanshawe as well. And then you also, yeah, that's the extent of the Ontario MP landlords, but that's I believe from the calculation that's 7 out of 40, right? So that's not great at all, quite frankly. So yeah, here's a map actually, in fact, of the landlord MPs. So you'll notice off Victoria Island. If you take a look there, you'll also notice St. John's. So looking at it, I think Green's case, it is just genuinely the gym. So it doesn't seem like he's a landlord, at least. But yeah, no, like Davide, who's the editor-in-chief of Passage, he made a really good point at the end of the day, right? That it's kind of nuts that essentially you have these kind of members of provincial parliament and such having like such a blatant conflict of interest, quite frankly, to work and create legislation that is really against the interests of the Canadian working class. It's quite frankly, really unacceptable when you have these kind of people. I mean, the Liberals and the Conservatives aren't a surprise. I mean, someone like Mitzi Hunter, who kind of positions herself as a progressive Liberal, is a classic example of kind of like the really pseudo left liberal. There's kind of like pseudo left liberals, and then there's pseudo left social democrats. My terminology isn't on point there, so don't like take me as a definitive guide for that there. But yeah, it's I totally agree. Mousland in general, I have a whole bunch of massive issues with that, quite frankly, and I think for fair reason. I mean, like I've had to deal with landlords who basically who take ages to do repairs, basically because they basically were selling to a new company for months, and so they just didn't give a shit. And so it was just, quite frankly, not great. Being there, like a lot of these things, it took ages to get fixed. So like ironically, by the time I lived in a downtown apartment essentially in Toronto, and then I came back to a place parents were renting because the house was sold recently. And so as a result, right, just more space, and also it's just a bit more space, because to be honest, the apartment I was in before was really, really tiny. So I was kind of fortunate. I'm definitely fortunate there. I'll be entirely honest. I'm very fortunate to have been in a situation where I could go back somewhere else. But that was the case. And so, like, obviously, I was fortunate. They gave an option to break the lease in April 30th. So be able to save a few months of rent. But there's a couple months of rent that I would pay that basically gonna lose that money, and that money stings. That money hurts to lose, but you just can't control that, right? At the end of the day, so I'm fortunate enough that it won't like cripple me financially, but I mean, it's definitely like that's money I could have used down the road, basically, to potentially, if there's a rough situation, if things get tough, like it's just not good. And generally, like I obviously. I don't like landlords, and I think parties that have any sympathies towards that are, quite frankly, not progressive parties in the first place. I think basically the Tom Parkins of the world, to be quite honest, who claim that basically there should be a push against ideology and essentially surrender to neoliberalism, are kind of the real, kind of true features of the party as a whole, right? So, anyways, I'm just glad I'm not in the party anymore, quite frankly. Yeah, because it's not good. It's not acceptable, really. Propaganda. Hey, man. Welcome to the good old stream. Welcome to the good old stream. Thank you for coming along and joining us. Glad to have you about. Definitely recommend people go and give Propaganda's channel a check out, because he's doing some great work, quite frankly, and it's work that I'm pleased to. If there's anything he needs help research wise and such, I'll be happy to, like I told him, I'll be happy to try to provide that wherever possible. So Propaganda, thank you a ton for popping into the chat. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think you've done like a couple interviews, 6 already, so if people have time, want to watch some more long form stuff, keep an eye on them. Yeah, anyways, basically at 8:30 we should be joined by Jay Watts. So I'll let you all know about that. You might notice that Jay Watts, if you go to check his Twitter account, is actually it's been basically knocked off. Essentially, it's been suspended in human terms. Yeah, he's basically down bad in terms of the connection. Yeah, let me go and check this now. I need to basically. Yeah, so Jay's basically in a meeting, so that's why the plan was kind of to consider having him come earlier, but things just didn't work out time-wise, so the deal's the deal anyways. Yeah, so I suppose I will mention one thing. You'll probably notice that this setup is kind of somewhat similar to Rob Rousseau's, and I'll acknowledge that. basically, I'm still trying to find my own style, so I figured this is just kind of like a safe option for a bit of time while I kind of just figure out what my own style is per se. So yeah, while that's figured out, we'll kind of be going from that angle, anyways. We'll also be testing something new in terms of a feature per se. That we might be having Jay Watts come on through Discord, actually. Discord is certainly the hope, because yeah, I remember the last time, the very first stream I did, actually, there was just a whole really just a massive nightmare, anyways, so that wasn't great. But anyways, while we're waiting for a few minutes, I want to take you through a few articles that I've done in the past few weeks, because I've been up to, I would argue, a decent bit, you know. Yeah. And so, you might be asking, what are those things if you haven't been paying attention? So, the most recent one was the fact that Canadian Parliament is working to create our very own quote-unquote Democracy Promotion Institute. And this was just found for me by looking through some committee documents, looking through some standing committees. And this just kind of caught my eye while I was kind of casually sifting through. And yeah, basically, in essence, right, I'm not going to go through a ton of detail here, but in essence, Elections Canada's actions are really suspect. Basically, the second they came into, like, Russia and Mexico, basically had rigging, vote burning, a bunch of really suspect things, and then the exact activities they include really seem to fit the bill for the kind of things you would need to rig an election. So it's very, very suspect there. You had our own, like, little parliamentary committee that pushed and created the International Center for Human Rights and Democratic Development, which basically turned into Rights and Democracy, and this was one that basically worked with the extreme Venezuelan opposition, helped paint a living advice for one of those anti-communist Chinese dissidents that kind of came into Canada. It supported efforts actually to build dissident movements in Yugoslavia, and obviously, like I said before, it obviously did much more than just that. Robert Rousseau is obviously kind enough to take through the article, so you guys might have seen part of this already. So I'll go through the short form of it, anyways. You also have CEDA, right, which is the Canadian International Development Agency. No, CEDA. Let me spell this out, because it's Canadian International. No, I got it right. Okay, I got it right. Point being, right, they worked really closely to help the coup in Haiti, where the RCMP, basically white troops, were basically in Haiti, which was a majority black country, the country of former slaves, who basically had a revolution to break away from basically the power of these slaveholding countries, and so yeah, it's quite frankly, obviously it's quite frankly disgraceful, our role, but it was really dangerous in there. And so essentially, in terms of basically getting back to this committee, right, so you had a whole bunch of people testifying. So you had Carl Gershman, NED, Danielle Twining from the International Republic Institute, which is NED proxy, National Democratic Institute, which we'll get to later, actually, Canadem, the UK's own, basically, NED, the Executive Chairman of Global Affairs Canada, and basically, as I'll emphasize, former NDP leader, Rights and Democracy Institute head from 1997, and current chair of the Broadbent Institute, which has been up to a lot recently. Basically, they were unanimous in basically pushing for more democracy promotion. And so I'm not going to go into the exact details here, but I want to emphasize one thing, which is that there's all-party support for this initiative back in 1988, right? And so there hasn't been the slightest resistance from the NDP to this. I directly have talked to Matthew Green. I've added them on Twitter, and I've tried to have conversations with them to make them aware of this. And if they've seen it, they've seen it, but they've chosen to ignore it, at least for sure. And it's quite frustrating there. Hey Daniel, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so talking about the National Democratic Institute, right? This was the other article that I'll be quite honest here. I actually forgot about it for like 3 weeks. I worked in the article and then got so busy I just genuinely forgot about it for weeks on end. So that's basically why I delayed the release of the article by a day. Because I kind of just realized, oh no, basically if I don't release this, then the context of the National Democratic Institute really just becomes a lot weaker, and it's quite important element just to show how dangerous this whole Bundugle really is. Yeah, no, it does for sure. I certainly hope it does explain some things, because the NDI certainly isn't a positive influence in terms of the part of the whole. Yeah, so let's actually get into this. So obviously, friendly reminder that I'm always open to taking questions and such. Jay Watts should be in here soon. He's just basically getting out of the meeting. So sorry, a meeting. I'm not sure what the meeting's about. Not really any of my business, to be quite honest. Yeah, but let's take a look at Dominic Carty, because this guy is the New Brunswick's education minister, essentially, right? So he did the usual centrist thing. Oh, communism and fascism are equal. They're equally bad, even though the Soviet Union lost 27 million citizens fighting against the Nazi regime, which obviously committed the Holocaust and was just a terrible force across the world, which had very close connections to a lot of Western powers and a lot of Western corporations, which the West is always very happy to hide. But yeah, no, he basically it was basically like a rant he went on Twitter that kind of really caught my eye, right? Because before this, I wasn't really that bothered by that. But essentially, what he did, like for the context, you had a Maoist faction of the Nepali Communist Party began armed resistance, right? So it fought to a stalemate, and then by 2006, had a popular coalition with other parties. The monarch gave up absolute power soon afterwards. Basically, the U.S. government is applauding the deal, and basically they're not even trying to block the Maoists from gaining key roles. And then so basically, Carty actually sought the delay of full return to democracy, basically trying to claim that, oh, they need further training, and they say that the parties would, they weren't involved in the grassroots, these parties, and so basically they would lose, because if you're not connected to the grassroots, you're obviously probably going to lose, and so that's the fault of the political parties, right? But not to good old Dominic Carty. To him, it's just an excuse to try to block the actual elections from happening instead, which is just typical, and you'll get why soon. And that's in fact because really they ended up failing, right? That's the core thing. Basically, they delayed elections until 2008. I'll show you where I found some of these links. So actually, they're in the WikiLeaks Kathmandu cables. So I'm not going to go fully through them, right? But yeah, basically here it is. Yeah, just showing you where some of the cables came from. Yeah, so they ended up winning basically essentially a combined majority of the seats in coalition with I believe the Marxist-Leninist faction of the party to pull together actually a majority. And so Maoist leader Pushka Dahal became the prime minister in August 2008. And so you'd think after this, right, Carty would basically get cancelled, the role of his thing would be exposed, and you might see some change. Nope. Nope, you did not see change at all. To be quite frank, Cardi basically got rewarded for his behavior, in fact, which is kind of just typical of the NDP operatives. You think of someone like Ali Chatour, who worked to block basically a resolution at the 2019 Ontario NDP convention, basically in favor of basically the Israeli apartheid groups, pro-Israeli apartheid groups, and he actually became Jagmeet Singh's communications director. So just an example of some of the operatives that are even coming into the party more recently. But point being, right? Let's get to the deal. Let's just cut to the chase. Anyways, the chase per se is the fact that Cardi became a campaign director for the New Brunswick NDP. Then he became the leader for 6 whole years. So he led the NDP for 6 whole years. This guy, hardcore centrist, basically firm anti-communist, and someone who's just the worst, one of the worst kind of people out there, really. Genuinely a garbage person. Apparently, Alex Grant had an interaction with him where they got into a shouting match. This was around the convention when the NDP chose to remove socialism from their party platform, which is, in my view, them just finally being honest. They never really intended to actually genuinely go for socialism, but deal is a deal. Anyways, yeah. So basically, you then had a case, right, where he actually became education minister for the PCs in 2018. And so basically, the whole deal is essentially he went over through a whole series of attacks on the Confucius Institutes, basically in that area of the country. Okay, so folks, give me a minute. I'm gonna be working out the technical details to try to pull Jay Watts in. So we're gonna go to the be right back screen. Give me like a minute or two. Don't leave us yet. We're gonna be going for a decent while longer. Just need the time to pause and get someone in. Jay, can you hear me? Okay, wait, just try talking again.
Hello.
Okay, there we go. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna join the main chat now, and I'm gonna pull you into the main chat and see if it basically this works. Okay, we're gonna go now. Hello. Okay. Jay, just speak a little bit. We need to see if people are able to hear what you're saying.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, people, can you hear Jay? That is my immediate question, because if we can, this would be honestly quite a breakthrough. Because I remember the really quiet. Okay, let me see if I can deal with this. Right, looking for the Discord voice. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be there at all. That isn't great. Okay, let me just. Okay, can people hear? Jay, just try speaking again. Sorry, this worst case scenario. We'll switch it to Zoom. Say that. Sorry, do that again.
Hello.
Okay. Can people hear him now? Okay. All right. So that's better. Yeah. We'll just turn off the chat more generally. So firstly, Jay, you've been a victim of the Twitter purge. Your account got suspended, eh?
This afternoon, I guess. I wasn't really paying attention after a while, and then around 6 I checked. Well, you sent me a message, and my account was suspended for targeted harassment of a group of people, in this case landlords. I had made a joke about killing all the landlords.
Oh yeah, I talked about my sheer love of landlords. Basically, in an earlier point, just taking a look at a little thing. Basically, so uh, you probably saw this. I want to actually talk about something. There's an interesting tweet. Basically, it was around Butila Carpoche and Parkdale. So did Butila, she claimed that she was part of the tenants association during the election campaign, right?
Yeah, so in 2018, I ran in Parkdale as a candidate with the Communist Party. The debate that was organized by the Parkdale Tenants Association. I am a member, although it's not as active anymore. Anyways, it just, this is coming up obviously in the context of finding out that she is a landlord. But she had made an offhand remark that she had, been a proud member of the Parkdale Tenants Association, which could have been true, I guess. But in the 3 years prior that I had been a member, I had never seen her at a meeting else, had any information about it. But I don't know, maybe it's just things that politicians say when they're.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I can understand basically why she might want to lie, but I mean, it's not cool. Nevertheless, really. But yeah. I mean, the other thing, quite frankly, I guess I want to ask because we'll get more to the whole meme meltdown in a bit. But like, what's the Communist Party been up to recently? There's not exactly a surprise much media coverage of it. So tell us all about what's been going on recently.
Well, we're doing basically the big thing that we're doing right now, just because of a surge in applications, is a new member school. So we're running those. It'll be the final session this Sunday. So there's a good almost 200 people who've enrolled in it. So we did a couple earlier sessions, and we'll do the final one. We missed a week because we did an event, like an online event, this past weekend for International Women's Day, which went quite well. Had some interviews from the Federation of Cuban Women, the Palestinian Youth Movement, the Greek Communist Party, other stuff. So there's that, and we're rolling up in May. It'll be our 100th anniversary. Get stuff ready for that. There should be a short documentary video, 20 minutes or so, that's going to be on the history of the party. There'll be a special issue of our theoretical journal, The Spark. We're digitizing a whole lot of material. So hopefully there'll be a special website basically devoted to the history of the party. Get to put up photos of interesting stuff that we have and knickknacks and whatnot.
Okay, well that's very nice. Basically, you guys have also put out. Let me see if I can find this. Basically, there's a very good statement around Xinjiang, right? Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of funny because well, obviously it's a pretty big issue. Xenophobia in this country is being sort of like, it's gone pretty mainstream. I mean, that's basically all of the corporate and state media is on board with this sort of like anti-China campaign. So we released a statement basically out the accusations of genocide, which we don't agree with. They're baseless. So I was prepared last week on Twitter and other areas of social media to spend a lot of time dealing with people attacking the party or that position, but somehow the NDP decided to steal our thunder and become the week-long bad guy on Twitter. So.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm kind of curious, like, basically your thoughts on basically the reporting I did that kind of dug into like the background of the report, basically, and the people who testified and the influences there. Like, what were your thoughts when you saw that at first?
It's good. I'm glad that you're doing this work. I'm glad that there's people out there. I think it's there's a lot of people who, basically, I think it's a pretty obvious that there's information that's being manipulated as well as people's emotions about this, and a lot of the accusations that people would make against our party or against other people who is that they're genocide deniers. And I think the reason why people or why this term is being used is because it's a neat step from there to being almost thought of as akin to something like a Holocaust. So which is an attempt to shut down what's happening, really, honestly, I think. So it's good that there's other people like yourself and Andre Demise and other people who are sort of looking more carefully what the substance of these claims are, where they originate, funders are that sort of propagate, these propagate basically what I think is slander.
Yeah, for sure. And so talking about a bit about the because you mentioned the NDP, the Nikki Ashton drama. Like from you, like obviously being with the Communist Party, like what are your kind of thoughts on that whole debacle, really? Because I mean, ever since that event's come out, I think to me, it's revealed a lot of the true colors, and I think those colors were available to see before that. I'd argue, but I think maybe it made more people aware of the true colors of some of those MPs.
Well, I'll go over, I guess, just to give people an overview. I'm sure everybody's probably aware of it, but on Tuesday of last week, Rick Smith, who was with the executive director of the Broadband Institute, affiliated with the NDP, even made a tweet commenting on Robinson's tweets. And Robinson is the former Burnaby NDP MP who had a long history of sort of articulating basically for a foreign policy of peace within the NDP, sometimes against his own party. So he was promoting an event with Nikki Ashton and Jeremy Corbyn, who's the Labour leader in the UK, or the former Labour leader in the UK. Rick Smith basically laundered the sort of Tory bullshit slander against Jeremy Corbyn that he was anti-Semitic, and so why would Nikki be doing this event, et cetera, et cetera. The next day, the National Post released a story by, I believe, Christopher Nardi, which, referenced Rick Smith's tweet, also talked to some certain right-wing Zionist groups who said they were shocked, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's just a slander campaign against Nikki Ashton and to a lesser extent Jeremy Corbyn. All but I think the key point within there was when the NDP was reached for comment, the NDP spokesperson said, "Oh well, Nikki didn't have permission to do this event." And to my mind, just watching how Ashton is being treated, let's say over the past, since everything that happened in Greece, with her going to visit an alien grandmother in Greece, rather, I think that the NDP has basically a narrative that they propagate about Nikki Ashton, which is that she has sour grapes over losing the leadership, she's a loose cannon, that she does her own thing, et cetera. And so related to that, it was also revealed that actually Nikki did let them know that she was going to do this event, and also that Jagmeet Singh 3 years ago had also done an event with Jeremy Corbyn that the Broadband Institute was totally fine at that time. So I mean that blew up kind of on Twitter. Basically, a lot of people within the NDP, some without the NDP, were asking other MPs who are positioned themselves ostensibly to the left, such as Matthew Green from Hamilton, Leo Gazan from Winnipeg, to speak up in defense of Nikki Ashton against the attacks against her, and that was not forthcoming. There was a bunch of private discussions with people, with NDP members. I believe a previous guest on the Canada Files was given that sort of treatment, and it just revealed sort of the lack of principle within the NDP and even within the ostensible left of the NDP. For example, I would just assume that if you position yourself as a left party, as a social democratic party that represents working people, that you wouldn't go along with a slander by the National Post, which is a right-wing, white supremacist newspaper. That you would stand up for your members. You would say something a little firmer than just, "Oh, she didn't ask our permission." So to my mind, I think I don't know if they planted the story. I'm sure the National Post was going to write about it anyways, but they certainly did not do a job of defending one of their own members. and nor did any of the ostensible left NDP MPs. I think
Yeah,
shameful.
like for sure. And I mean, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I saw too. Ashton's partner also responded that that this was ridiculous, that he had lost faith in progressive institutions, ostensibly progressive institutions, by which I take it to mean the NDP and the Broadbent Institute. So, I mean, this is another thing too. Is Rick Smith, to my understanding, does not actually play. I don't think he has a role within the NDP. Obviously, he does, but if this was a matter of the NDP to keep the conversation within themselves, they should have told Rick Smith. They didn't.
Yeah, for sure. And I think basically one of the most interesting examples, and I think it's not, I guess it's so much as important, quite frankly, because it's more of an online thing, but it was rather interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but there's a whole basically total meltdown. Do you know Lefty Mind by any chance?
Shelby, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember that meme? I'm trying to find it, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it because she has a ton of tweets. So yeah, I'm not gonna be able to find it, to be quite honest. But I just remember that basically that whole, for example, that just absolutely massive meltdown that they had. It was just over like a meme, and I kid you not, like basically one of the funniest tweets I saw was this from Tom Parkin, who I've had a past with, not in a confrontational way. Embarrassingly enough, this was back when I was in the student activism, and wasn't as well politically developed. I was like in support of Palestine and I supported these things already, but I didn't have full political development. I mean, I was 17 or 16, so it takes time. But point being, right, Tom Parkin, this was a person who, it became pretty quickly clear to me that this guy's a centrist, right? And he said basically, the NDP isn't an ideological party. It isn't supposed to be. It's a coalition of people with various views working together to win and implement a platform that fixes some of the parties we face. Like I mean, I appreciate the honesty, Tom. But like, thinking of it strategically, you're not just supposed to like openly admit that it's the NDP is trying to become like a vapid Liberal Party copy and just repeat what it's doing in BC like all across the country. It's just like it's sometimes funny just to watch when somebody just so bluntly states something that you kind of known for a while, but people have always been inherently suspicious of. But then someone just literally says it.
I mean, well, I think great for being honest, but I think what he's actually trying to say in some sort of kind of poor manner is, the NDP is a pragmatic party. The NDP gets things done, et cetera, et cetera. It's maybe it's not to the left and enough for some people, but those people are unrealistic. This sort of like sense that people are losing really a lot of patience with, or at least younger members of the NDP. Other people are going to stick around that party and through it, but I mean, I think it does. I would guess he's positioned himself more a little bit more as sort of a left social democrat, a socialist. But that's what the NDP thinks, right? Is that they think that they don't really like the left that's in the party, but they're happy to take their money. They don't really care about engaging them in any democratic way through conventions or thing like that. And they like to feel that way because they think that, well, frankly, there's nowhere else for them to go. But yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of this like going on, striving careerist kind of NDP people, basically selling the party line, and I think that's what Tom is doing here. And the party line is that we might have had some socialists in the past. Regina Manifesto is interesting, but we're on to new things, and we're going to eventually replace the Liberals. And the way to do that is by sort of being just a bit shy to the left of the Liberals, existing within the sort of dominant conventional wisdom. But I don't know. It's boring. and I think a lot of their members are kind of bored of it and sick of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, obviously, one of the basically now one of the aspects I think that's kind of is underrated, right, is basically that not every like leftist is really meant to join the Communist Party, right? Maybe there's kind of a misperception around that. Can you maybe explain to people the basic of that, especially with the NDP kind of having basically kind of an open, like at least social media falling out of sorts?
Yeah, sure. So we're doing a lot of recruitment right now, a lot for a smaller party like ourselves, and we're happy to offer political education through a new member school. Part of that is also understanding that we're a Marxist-Leninist party. We adhere to democratic centralism. That means certain organizational things, and we have a view which is called scientific socialism. So there's some people I think who are coming to the party or looking at the party who maybe while think of the party as just being slightly to the left of the NDP or something. We don't entirely think that's the case. We think that we have a certain worldview and outlook, and we try to carry that into our work. What it shows, though, is just that there's really, and when we think of what the way forward and the way to get to socialism, we do imagine that we're working with social movements, labor movement, even other political parties, and something that we call the Democratic Anti-Imperialist Alliance. So, in previous years, the party in Quebec has worked within Quebec Solidaire, no longer a member of that, but, something like that we could imagine. But right now, the NDP is not a suitable partner with anything. And unfortunately, for a lot of people who maybe aren't communists or are not there yet, there isn't anything for them to be involved in. Political parties or obviously social movements, individual organizations at the local level.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an interesting time. I mean, I've definitely been very glad to see that basically, even if not all the members that do come in are going to stick around for sure. The fact that there is so much interest and there's kind of is that upswing, I think I think to me it's a very good it's a very good sign for like the future. Generally, I think it's one of those things that does give me a bit of optimism. The fact that I think the pandemic's been a kind of clear. It's made people realize like some of the social realities that I think a lot of people might have been too comfortable or off to realize, or maybe just the propaganda was still strong enough when you're not basically when you got that 9 to 5 kind of cycle. But when you're stuck inside, a lot of people, there's so few jobs out there now. Basically, people are there a lot more. They're having these kind of more critical thoughts about the economic system. I mean, like for example, like you look at somewhere like China, where basically they've alleviated extreme poverty, they've handled the pandemic very well. Basically, it's like you see examples like that, and basically, I think people rightfully look at it and say, well, why are we failing so miserably? Like, why do we have a Ford government that is now just panicking and being like, oh no, we need to stop the virus? And it's like everyone's been yelling at him for months on end to have some sort of even competent plan. And surprise, surprise, he's more worried about getting his landlord buddies basically a whole bunch of farmland and building like a $10 billion superhighway instead of like paid sick days, or basically like nationalizing basically long-term care. And so some of these things, obviously Ford's never going to do that, but it's kind of shown like the core failures of capitalism, right? I think that's a fair way to put it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree. I mean, I think we've seen like we're past the year end of COVID being a thing, and it's still not gotten a handle of what, as you say, like China's dealt with it, Vietnam has dealt with it, Cuba still has cases and stuff, but is primarily dealt with it and into the vaccination process. Just see like how either criminally inept or corrupt or a combination of both our ruling class is on all levels of government. I think that impacts people as well as that. I looked at some numbers today. It's the Keep Your Rent organization here based in Toronto has a website called Evictions Ontario. So I'm looking there. A lot of evictions in my neighborhood. I'm living in Parkdale. It said there was 3,500 scheduled landlord and tenant board hearings from November 2nd to January 31st. And January 31st was when when they paused some of those evictions. They're obviously picking back up again. Today was the first day allowed to do them, but that's 3,500 scheduled landlord-tenant meetings. That's more than just, it's not, those are families, those are people who have relatives. So people are seeing really what sort of awful system we live under more and more these days. And the fact that even just a basic thing that a government should be competent in, which is like dealing with a public health crisis like a pandemic, failing. They're not doing very well. I mean, I don't know how the vaccination rollout is going to happen, and I pretty much don't pay attention to it because I'm a little pessimistic about what might happen. But yeah, people are seeing just what a really awful situation we're in, and I mean, we're not even I don't think we're in the worst of it. I think there's many issues, especially with wages haven't really risen or kept up with inflation 30, 40 years. So because of that, a lot of people carry a lot of debt. That can be really crippling, and it can be really messed up for the economy that we have right now, which also primarily depends on housing, which is the sort of financialized market in order to keep things going. It's just, it doesn't seem like things are going to get much better.
For sure, I understand that feeling. It's definitely like, I think there is the kind of, I guess, an illusion that things are going to automatically just go back to being great or going back to being decent. I don't think the normal, I think it's pretty obvious that the normal was never good enough, anywhere close to good enough. So yeah, I mean, even if somehow you get back to anything close to what consisted of the status quo before, it still was absolutely really unacceptable on any sort of serious level. So I just want to, I mentioned the China propaganda, not China, basically the China poverty alleviation, right? I want to put on just a video for 4 minutes quickly, just to give people a sense of the extent of that program, because it's something that basically, I think it's part of the reason why there's such an intense anti-China campaign, because if people didn't believe the things and the lies that they believe, basically, I quite frankly think they'd be demanding these kind of anti-poverty programs in much greater detail. So yeah, if you wanted to pause, just let me know. But I'll just play this quickly so people can get a sense about this. Alrighty, let's go.
832个贫困县，12.8万个贫困村，近1亿贫困人口，这是摆在中国面前的现实国情。要全面建成小康社会，就必须打赢消除绝对贫困这场攻坚战。
实事求是，因地制宜，分类指导，把工作要做细，我们现在叫做精准扶贫。
找真贫是精准扶贫的第一步，不仅要为每个贫困户建立贫困档案，更要下足绣花功夫。
习总书记讲的2不愁3保障，脑力强不强，家里有没有读书郎，老婆孩子有没有病，这几个都存在问题，那他就是贫困户。
建档立卡使我国贫困数据第一次实现了到村到户到人。从总体上摸清了所有建档立卡贫困户的致贫原因，贫困的人口找到了，贫困的原因找准了，如何精准施策更为关键。2015年10月，习近平总书记明确提出，通过5个一批实现精准扶贫、精准脱贫的中国路径。832个贫困县全部编制了产业扶贫规划，累计建成种植、养殖、加工等各类产业基地超过30万个。
哪个群众想搞，哪个群众能搞，哪个群众适合搞什么，我们就帮他干什么。
这就是所谓的精准。
960多万贫困群众搬进了新落成的266万多套住房，水电路气网一一配齐。110多万贫困人口变身生态护林员，直接带动300万贫困群众脱贫。20万义务教育阶段建档立卡贫困家庭辍学学生实现了动态清零，800多万初高中毕业后未能继续学习和就业的贫困家庭学生，全部免费接受职业教育。
没有精准扶贫的话，我也不会来这儿，是吧？都不能见到这么好的世面。
2016年以来，全国共有1936万建档立卡贫困人口纳入低保或特困供养范围，确保脱贫路上不让一个贫困群众掉队。扶真贫、真扶贫、真脱贫。脱贫攻坚实行最严格考核评估制度，所有贫困县在摘帽之前都要经过第三方考核评估。2020年，脱贫攻坚普查启动，覆盖全部建档立卡贫困人口。精准扶贫、精准脱贫，是中国共产党实事求是精神在中国减贫事业中最生动的运用、最鲜活的体现，成功地开辟出一条适合我国国情、独具中国特色的减贫道路。
Yeah, so I just really wanted to show that video just so people could maybe like get a sense of like it really is like something of a staggering extent, right? It shows really the fact that basically if it's a dictatorship of the proletariat, if it's a government that works explicitly for the working class and the working people of basically a country, you can do tremendous things. I mean, China has more than 1 billion people in its population. It is a mega country. And so doing initiatives like this takes significant work, significant cooperation, and significant institutional capacity. It really is just quite the remarkable achievement. Jay, just thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's pretty impressive on almost all of the measures of where they see themselves. They set certain things with 5-year plans, et cetera, et cetera. They're achieving all the targets, and especially something that, during something like COVID, it just shows that they were able to get a handle on the pandemic very quickly to eventually get the economy back on track, and that's where they are now. And I think that's giving new urgency to this like propaganda and war campaign against is just seeing how well they were able to weather this storm. But I think it's quite impressive, and especially if you compare it to something like India, which also has a very significant population, neighboring, whereby the markers on progress, social progress in are certain if they are in China, to the great detriment of the.
Jay, I think we lost you.
Oh.
Or you cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry about that.
I can hear you now, though.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying that a good comparison is to compare India and social progress there has been there is oftentimes confined only to certain regions like Kerala, which is run by a united front and socialists. But obviously, we see what's happening in protests with farmers. The plan in India is to immiserate the farmers, is to destroy them. And one of the core things, which I think is really interesting, and I want myself to read more about it, is the role that small farmers are playing in poverty reduction. in the plans within China. It's not a model of moving farmers off the land and replacing with agribusiness, but that they're integrating small farmers in sort of large-scale food production. But one of the more interesting apps, I forget what it's called right now. It's Huawei. So I can't use it, but I can see it anyways and just look through it. Basically ties in, is a large sort of like Alibaba style platform that ties small farmers, like peasant producers, with an online marketplace, basically, so people can order from these small. So there's just lots of interesting stuff that's happening, and I think it's, whatever you might think about it, state capitalist, it's socialist, or anything like that, I don't think you can say that there's nothing to learn.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I think this is probably like a great point to leave the conversation off on. We've had a great chat. Just want to remind people that are watching that to basically go follow the Twitch channel for more streams. Going to be chatting with Stephen Goins on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Looking forward to that. He's quite the great writer. He's done some really interesting writing and work on Syria, done some interesting stuff in North Korea, and he's written an article recently around the Xinjiang case as well. Really looking forward to chatting with him. So go follow the Twitch channel for that for sure. If you want to, like I said before, support basically the journalism and some of the streams that I do, feel free to subscribe to the Twitch channel. But yeah, Jay, thank you so much for popping on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. So where can I guess my question would be where can people find you, basically, and where can people like interact with like what would you want to shout out or tell people to maybe go check out if you have a chance?
Not on Twitter anymore, until suspension is lifted. But I would recommend people check out the party stuff. No, actually, just check out the party YouTube account. See updates. There's a bunch of different events that we've done there. I really do think the International Women's Day event was very strong. We had Dina Workers Action Center. Liz Rowley was the leader of the party, spoke. There's some more historically interesting things. Obviously, the event we did with President Evo Morales in Bolivia. Out there, subscribe. We'll be doing a United May Day event on for the second year in a row. So that should be interesting and have some surprise guests.
All right, for sure. Well, let me just check one thing. Yeah, well, like I said before, Jay, thank you so much for coming on, and I think we'll probably end up chatting sometime in the future again. Thanks a ton, man.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Okay, all right. So, basically, we're pretty much running to the end of the stream at this point. So, like I said before, thanks very much for watching. Basically, I'll be streaming Thursday night. I think I'm going to be switching to a Thursday night schedule. Just makes a bit more sense, to be quite honest. So it doesn't conflict with Rob Rousseau's streams or Christophe Valise's streams. Yeah, and it's easier for me course-wise. Things just match up better there. But yeah, no. Look forward to these kind of streams returning back to where they used to be, really. And yeah, just thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, new streaming setup seems to have fixed that up, some of the issues, and things hopefully do look a little bit nicer. And yeah, well, I've rambled on long enough. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this stream. Keep an eye in touch on the work and stuff I do. And catch